speaking of quarterbacks and this quarterback class, I want to ask you about what Cam Ward had to say on Monday night after winning the Davey O'Brien Trophy. And he was asked about not playing in the second half of Miami's bowl game. And his response, I want to read it out loud for my radio audience, and then I'll have you comment, Mike. Okay, you're either going to draft me or you're not. If you don't draft me, that's your fault. You've got to remember you're the same team that's got to play me for the rest of my career, and I'll remember that. I just think we all got what we needed out of it, meaning playing in the first half of his bowl game. They've seen things that they think they need to work on for this season coming up, and they also knew what I had on the line. We feel like we're doing what's best for the program and myself. It was a hard decision, especially when some guys on our team didn't play who I thought should have played. Hold on a minute. He finishes up. Those guys thought about their future the same way I thought about mine. If I could do it again, I'd do it the same way. I wish we could have ended up winning the game. If we'd won the game, they wouldn't have said anything. And so that's usually how it goes. Take it on the chin and just keep pushing. How is this going to land in the evaluator class, Mike? What do you think?
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yes, sir.
As you read it to me. First and foremost, as far as not playing in the second half, to me, you make that decision on the way in and you either play the whole game, you're a teammate, you're a good teammate, you're in there to win a football game, or you let them know up front, I'm not playing. It can't be both. That decision, I don't like that, and I don't understand it. And the second piece of that I didn't like, and I think people will take notice of, is throwing teammates under the bus. And that's something an NFL quarterback has to learn very quickly in his career, that you're going to get paid more than everybody else. Therefore, you're going to have more responsibility than anybody else. And since you're being quoted more than anybody else, you got to be really cognizant of what you're saying. And throwing coaches and teammates under the bus generally doesn't work whatsoever. So they're the two things for me. And the last one is, I've done a lot of study on this kid, and I respect the fact. Do you know where he started his college career?
Go for it.
Incarnate Word. You ever hear of it?
Did they play at 2 a.m. on Saturday night on ESPN Plus? I don't know, Mike. You know, I hear you.
I don't think they ever played on TV, but he spent 2 years there, 2 years at Washington State, and a 5th year at Miami where he exploded. So I give the kid a ton of credit from coming from nowhere and forcing himself to the front of the line. But when you sit there, say you're gonna take names and numbers and all that kind of stuff, you better check your resume. If Deion Sanders says that, I'm all in. If I love when Amon-Ra St. Brown sits there, who was a 4th round pick and coming off 2 or 3 consecutive 100 reception years, goes, I know every friggin' wideout that get taken ahead of me, and he reels them off. I love that. But you got to be a little more careful when you're Cam Ward from Incarnate Word, etc.
Okay, so let me ask. So, what's he going to hear when he walks into the interview rooms next week in Indianapolis? A lot of what you just said, Mike, or do you think there's some other general managers who might take a different point of view and just say, kind of dig it, kind of like it, you're one of ours? What do you think, Mike?
Well, I'm hoping they're not going to ask him if he'd be a dog or a cat. I never really understood that one. They're going to dig into him a little bit, Rich. And if the higher you go in the draft, the more you got to pick at the scabs. And so do you like a little bit of confidence and bravado at that position? Hell yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm not discounting it, because Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I mentioned, has a chip on his shoulder and it drives him. And I like that. Okay. I like players that have a chip and it drives them. But that whole statement you just read opens up some conversations, and he's going to have to deal with it. And I think it's a great lesson also for him as he goes forward, because he's going to get quoted an awful lot going forward in his life.
Yeah, didn't Cam Newton said he wanted to be an icon, right, before he came into the combine? And you and I were talking about it on NFL Network, kind of like, what gives? But he did kind of become iconic, Mike, so sometimes a kid calling his shot like that is not a red flag, but maybe an indication that he's got it. You know?
There's a different confidence and bravado can be two different things, and really, you only can find out what they are through the prism of hindsight. And if you look at Cam Newton recently, he just threw some other guys under the bus.
When he said he would want to win an MVP over a Super Bowl, is what you're saying, Mike?
No, when he ripped his teammates in Carolina for when he first got there, and then Steve Smith went after him.
He basically said they were losers before he got there.
That's right.
He called it a locker room full of losers. And you can imagine our buddy Steve Smith.
That's right. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.